on the line, you can't fold and you can't bend. Y'all be playing it safe and I be going for the win. Remember back when they was doubting on the kid. Now they tuned in cause my game too legit.
There's a lot of you don't know about the fantasy headlines. Nation. Headline Nation. Fantasy headlines for the nation. I'm a headliner. I'm a headliner.
Yo. Analytics off the chain. Other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. Y'all stuck on third down. Your content's plain Jane. Headliners on top now. We gonna move and change. Podcast off the rip. Draft guide, so legit. Fantasy world, our game tight. You know we about that chub life. Stuck in a rut and you need some motivation. Head to the channel for this Headliner Nation.
I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, nation? It's Monday morning. Beautiful Monday morning. Hopefully all of your fantasy teams this weekend did exactly what they were supposed to. We had a good week. We had a really good week, I feel like. Pick'ems went really, really good. We're well over 70% the last 2 weeks in our pick'ems. I know I won a little bit of money yesterday. Jake won some money yesterday. A lot of people in Discord said that they won money yesterday. Saw a lot of people win their fantasy leagues yesterday. I feel like everybody in the nation won their fantasy leagues yesterday except for anybody who faced Raheem Mostert. Oh, man. But for the most part, I felt it was good. I felt like we had some really good calls. Chuba Hubbard was an excellent call this week for me. I know I pumped him to a lot of people. That ended up working out. John the Lions looked really good yesterday. I think for the most part, you know, we had a good week. ETN, Silver Badger, exactly. ETN had another big week. What are we doing with Derrick Henry? I mean, he ran for 97 yards. Now give it. Majority of that came on one carry. It is what it is. Boom. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing with Henry. We're playing him. We're playing Derrick Henry. Yeah. So, you know, if you have not been a part of this stream before that we do on Monday mornings, what we do here is we really just kind of go over Hunter Henry. You'll hear about him in today's video. Not good things. We're reacting. This video is all about reacting. What happened over the weekend? What are trends to keep an eye on? Good things that happen, bad things that happen, talking about our hits and misses from the weekend, different things like that. That's what this stream is going to be all about. So we're going to hop into it. As far as injury questions, ladies and gentlemen, to be honest with you, like, I don't know. I don't know about some of these injuries yet. Christian McCaffrey, I have no idea yet. I have no idea about Deebo Samuel. I don't know a whole lot of those yet at this point. Yeah. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with some of the injuries. Let me get some of this information up here real quick. Dude, Detroit and Baltimore is going to be a really good game next week. It is going to be a really good game. So they're talking about Kyron Williams. Kind of out of nowhere. Apparently he suffered an ankle injury yesterday, but he left without a walking boot. So as of right now, there's not a ton of concern. He is going to get an MRI. I would say as of right now, we're cautiously optimistic that he'll be okay. But we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see what happens over the coming weeks. Or coming days. Just making sure there was no new information on him. Basically, all QBs were a disaster. Justin Fields had a dislocated finger. Ethan is worried about ligament damage, but we won't know until he gets an MRI done. I'm checking Ethan's updates here. T-Law has a clean MRI. He's day-to-day with a knee injury, but no significant damage. Baker Mayfield has a bruise on his non-throwing hand. He should be all right. Tannehill has a high ankle sprain. It was the same ankle he injured last year, so it could be Malik Willis week. I actually know they're on a bye this week. Thumb dislocation for Fields. MRI will tell full story of recovery timeline. Worry about ligament damage. So there is some concern about Justin Fields for sure. I'm getting a phone call. Could you all just... Oh, wait, hold on a second. And again, we're not doing start and sit questions or anything like that. We're just reacting to the week. We're kind of going over some different things that we saw and stuff like that. Let me see. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Let me take a quick peek ski here. Okay, so let's go over some different stats and things that we saw from the week. One thing that I've saw, Isaiah Pacheco is in the up and up, is on the up and up, is through the up and up, whatever you want to say. Over the last couple of weeks, he's seen his running back, his rush share, jump almost 20%. He's getting a ton of volume right now. Definitely one of the safer running backs in all of football right now. Gus Edwards had a pretty big jump. I don't love moving forward. I don't love moving forward this week against Detroit. Gus Edwards, it's good to see how much he played this week. He got up over 60% of the running back snaps this week. I actually like Justice Hill a little bit more against Detroit, though. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on that. There's one guy I want to address, and it's Tajay Spears from Tennessee. People really, really need to pump their brakes on Spears. Everybody wants to just write off Derrick Henry still. Yes, a majority of his production came on one run yesterday, and then he had the touchdown. But Spears only played 2 fewer snaps than Derrick Henry yesterday, in a game in which, again, they were trailing. and he saw a season low 5% target share. He had one target, and it ended up being a big play 48-yard reception. Okay? Tajay Spears is not a fantasy relevant player on his own. He is not. And I feel like people keep trying to sell you that he is. If you own Derrick Henry, then you should own Spears. Okay? If you own Derrick Henry, then you should own Spears. If you don't own Derrick Henry, you shouldn't own Tajay Spears. The one thing that people keep running to with Tajay Spears is, well, he plays so much, and he's so much here, and this is what we need. Let me look real quick. Snap-wise, yeah, Spears played 31 to 29. 31 to 29. Okay? And but just because he's on the field doesn't mean he's doing anything production-wise for your fantasy team. So people are continuing to say, well, Spears is getting all of this work. He's not getting work. He's just on the field. There is a difference. There is a difference between getting a workload, getting a fantasy-relevant workload, and just being on the field. It's not a bad thing that he's on the field so much. Why do we need Derrick Henry out there as much as he has been in years past? We don't. We don't. We don't. We don't need him out there as much. It's fine that he's not out there as much. But that's literally what I just said, Pat. If Henry gets injured, he's going to be relevant. That's literally what I just said, right? The only reason that we should own Tajay Spears if we own Derrick Henry. If you want to own somebody else's handcuff and you have room for it, then you're more than welcome to, but you're not starting him. And with 6 teams on a bye this week and all the injuries, can you really afford to stash players that you can't start on their own? That becomes a question. If you're stashing your own handcuffs, yeah, you're keeping them. But if you're stashing somebody else's handcuffs, you're basically rooting for injuries to happen. Yeah, Spears will become relevant if Derrick Henry goes down. That's if, right? No guarantee Derrick Henry gets hurt, and you can't play him. Exactly, Deshaun. He's on the wrong side of 30. Let him manage his workload a little bit. Should we bench Kittle? I tried to bench him last week, and he went off. The tight end position is very difficult to figure out right now. The tight end position is definitely difficult to figure out right now. Let's keep going. I'm just looking for different stats and things that kind of peak in my mind. Curtis Samuel seems to be the guy over Jahan Dotson right now. Jahan Dotson continues to see, he ran the second most routes yesterday, but he's not getting any work. Curtis Samuel is the guy over Jahan Dotson right now. Here's an interesting one too. So, Drake London's targets since week 1. So in week 1, he had 1 target. Everyone freaked out, right? 1 target, everyone freaked out. Since week 1, he saw 6 targets, 7 targets, 9 targets, and 12 targets. 6 targets, 7 targets, 9 targets, and 12 targets. Drake London is on the up and up as well. They've also had more passing attempts than rushing attempts the last 2 games. Shane, James Cook is not annoying. The Buffalo offense is annoying. In fact, it's not just the Buffalo offense, it's the Buffalo play callers. And I even tweeted about this last night. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I had tweeted about this last night because James Cook was averaging over 7 yards per carry, and they were still trying to throw the football every single freaking down. James Cook had a good game last night. Unfortunately, he didn't get nearly as many carries as he should have. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Kenneth Walker saw 90% of the running back shares yesterday. 90%. 90%. Kenneth Walker's the dude. Jerome Ford. You'll hear me rant a little bit about Jerome Ford in the waiver wire video today. You'll hear me rant about him a little bit more today. But he saw his share, his snap share is down to 51%. I've been trying to say for a couple of weeks now. It's Kareem Hunt is coming. And he finally came. I am a child. Here's the thing about Jerome Ford. I mean, if you want to look at the box score, everyone's saying pause right now. If you want to look at the box score, yeah, Jerome Ford had a great day yesterday. But you want to know what led to Jerome Ford? Here we go. Y'all are causing me to rant. Here we go. I was going to save it for the waiver wire video, but I can't. If you want to defend Jerome Ford, you need to do better research on how he picked up his yards. Okay? Because prior to the final drive of the game, Jerome Ford was averaging 3.1 yards per carry. 3.1 yards per carry. Then we come to the final drive of the game for Cleveland. Right? Final drive of the game for Cleveland. And if you're a Cleveland fan out there, you're just going to need, you're going to want to argue with me, and I'm not going to argue with you. You're going to argue into the void about this. There was 2 penalties that were for sure called yesterday against San Francisco that were not penalties on that final drive. That hit and then the holding call that were called against San Francisco were not penalties. There was also a third penalty that was on the fence. But those two penalties resulted in Cleveland being able to extend the drive. Their defense is worn down. Now they're pissed off that 2 back-to-back penalties extended the drive when it should have been done. And then all of a sudden, Jerome Ford snaps off 3 big carries for 22 yards, 14 yards, and 4 yards. Jerome Ford would have been garbage yesterday if it had not been for 2 penalties that it should have never been called anyway. He lucked out. Now, it's cool that Cleveland won. I love to see underdogs win, and I'm not saying anything about Cleveland, and I'm not saying that they were lucky to win or anything like that, but those 2 penalties on that last drive should have never been called. Had they not been called, that drive would have not been extended. If the drive had not been extended, Jerome Ford would have had like 15 carries for 40 yards. But those weren't garbage time points, Greg. I don't think you understand garbage points. Those were not garbage points. Those were lucky points. They didn't come in garbage time. Ford is not a good running back. I look grumpy. I'm not grumpy. Just me having to rant about players again. I would take Kareem Hunt over Jerome Ford easily. Easily. Nobody for the running back. Nobody. No Rams are out. No Rams are out. No Rams are out. No Rams are out. I never said Hunt was a good running back. Can everyone in the chat please tell me when I said Hunt was a good running back? Ronald, I talk about Jordan Mason in today's waiver wire video. I like him if CMC is out. I do. I said he came. I did say he came on. I did say that. I did say that. I saw a lot of people asking about the waiver wire video is not out yet. It won't be out until this afternoon. We don't drop it until I'm done with this. I see a lot of people asking about Leonard Fournette. Why is he trending? Listen, if Leonard Fournette was going to be signed by a team, he would have already been signed. I would be shocked if somebody signed him. I would be shocked if somebody signed him. The only instance where he gets signed is maybe an instance like this week where, like the Rams, like if Kyron Williams and Ronnie Rivers both do end up missing, if they like sign him for depth or something like that. But we're heading into week 7 of the NFL season. Where do we really feel like Leonard Fournette has any fantasy value? Gronk is also a rumor. Scott Daigle becoming a member for the 3rd month. Made a big trade. Got CMC, Hall, and Stroud. CMC, Hall, Stroud, and Higgins for Hurts, Mostert, and Kamara. That's easily your side, and it's not even really close. Dapper Dan becoming a member for the 14th month. Is it wrong I want to play Howell over Geno from now on in my Superflex? No, not at all. Howell's playing better. Gronk is not coming back. He's already said he's not. There's going to be a Dameon Pierce film review coming this week for members. I am worried that Devin Singletary outsnapped him, though. But I also believe it had something to do against the defense, something to do with the defense that they were playing. And I think that Devin Singletary is a little bit more of a tougher running back, and they felt like they were going to need that over Dameon Pierce. So I'm not necessarily saying Devin Singletary is taking over, but it is something that we're going to talk about. Pat Morgan becoming a member for the 6 months. Should we trade for Devontae Adams? You can if you want. You can if you want. I am going to go over like some hits and misses stuff here in a minute, but Devontae Adams so far has been exactly what we thought he would be prior to the season. James Dennison becoming a member for the 15th month. What up, Kyle? Happy Monday. Prediction for tonight's game. I'm going with the Chargers. Zach Moss is about to lose his job to Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss' time frame has basically run out. Last week, Moss outsnapped him 49-10. This week, it closed to 37-32. Next week, I do believe it's going to go back to Jonathan Taylor, and Jonathan Taylor will see more snaps than Zach Moss next week. JD, do I have any pick'ems for tonight's game? I have one that I put together that I don't love, but I looked at it real quick this morning. I posted it in Discord already. Christian Kirk, I'm really glad we didn't give up on Christian Kirk, and I hope you all listen to us, because after everyone freaked out because he had a 9.4% target share in week 1, he's averaged a 26% target share since then. Chuba Hubbard is an interesting case because Miles Sanders hasn't really played well all year. Chuba Hubbard played extremely well yesterday. He played extremely well yesterday. I feel like Greg Martinez is in the chat solely just to disagree with everything I said. Because the only time I've seen Greg Martinez type in the chat is when I give my thoughts on something, and he immediately disagrees every time. As soon as I say something, Greg hits me with the exact opposite thought on why I'm wrong. Greg's out here like, nope, Kyle, boom, you wrong. Kyle, boom, you wrong. Kyle, boom, you wrong. It's fine. You can disagree. I just think it's funny. Adam Thielen's balling out. Ramondre Stevenson, this was a big point that I was hoping this week. This was something that I was hoping for this week with Ramondre Stevenson. He saw a season-high target share this weekend of 19.4%. That is exactly what we want. That's exactly what we want. And I kind of talked about it this past week with Ramondre, and I talked about it in the film review last week. And I said, honestly, it felt like everything that the Patriots offense did the first 2 weeks of the season and how well they operated, that they completely got away from all of that. And that they needed to get back to it. They needed to get back to trying to run the football. And the biggest thing was, one of your best pass catchers is Ramondre Stevenson. Why are we not using him more? 19% target share. 19% target share. That's exactly what we want to see with Ramondre Stevenson. Is it going to lead to better times? I don't know. Because now I think Mac Jones is done. I would not be surprised if Malik Cunningham is the starting quarterback next week. And if they don't give him an opportunity, and just, for me, really at this point, I think New England is saying to themselves, we need to just shoot for a top pick because Mac Jones isn't the future. It's tough. So what are we going to get from Ramondre? I don't know, because if people already aren't I don't know what we're going to get from Malik Cunningham. Now, the good thing is Malik Cunningham, he can run it a little bit. All right. And maybe we get to doing a little bit of RPOs and stuff and some options with Ramondre and things like that. And see, I knew Greg and I would agree on something. It is going to be Roschon season as soon as he's ready to go. So do I try to trade Ramondre Stevenson? It depends on what you get. If you're just trading him to trade him, no. If you're just trading him to trade him, no. If you can get something decent, it's really going to depend on what you want. Would I try to trade him? I mean, I'm not actively moving him, but if I can find a decent offer, then of course. That's the way fantasy football should be. Fantasy football, you should never have a player that is untradeable. Everybody should have a price. Everybody should have a price. And if the price is right for Ramondre, then absolutely we move him. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Rachaad White played 80% of Tampa Bay's offensive snaps this week, but he only saw a 53% running back share. That was the lowest of his season. Rachaad White continues to be a guy that doesn't get it done. We are not worried about Puka Nacua. We are not worried about Puka Nacua. He only scored like 6 fantasy points yesterday, but he saw 33% of the targets. He's fine. He is fine. Sean says only 700 watchers, or 700 watchers, only 137 likes. Isaiah, we took one of our pick'ems yesterday was Rachaad White under, and we nailed it by a lot. DJ Moore, there's not much we can do with DJ Moore. We don't know about Justin Fields yet. Not really worried about Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is exactly what... I mean, he's exactly what I said he was going to be in the preseason. In the preseason, I said Christian Kirk was going to be the volume guy. He was going to be good for PPR. He might not have as much upside as Calvin Ridley, but he was going to be the main guy in this offense. Calvin Ridley was going to have big playability. He was going to put together some big games. He was going to score some touchdowns, but he was also going to be inconsistent at times. That's exactly what we've seen so far this season. And I think you also all need to remember too that Calvin Ridley is playing his first football for the first time in like a year and a half, 2 years. I mean, he looks good at times and he looks rusty at times. I think that's exactly what it was. I also feel like I was extremely right on Devontae Smith. I mean, if we take a look at like overall, like preseason predictions, like the main predictions I made at running back, like my biggest draft advice this year was if you want to start with a wide receiver, start with a wide receiver. And then we need to nail a combination of Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, and Ramondre Stevenson as your RB1 and 2s. I've missed on Ramondre Stevenson, but I was absolutely right on Kenneth Walker and Travis Etienne. Other running backs, I told you to avoid Rachaad White. That's been accurate so far. I told you to draft Dameon Pierce. That's been accurate. One of my main running back sleepers this year was Raheem Mostert. I feel like I killed the running back position so far with preseason predictions. Wide receiver wise, I told you all to draft A.J. Brown and that you could even take him at the end of the first round if you wanted to. Killed that. Told you all to draft Christian Kirk. Killed that. Told you all to draft CeeDee Lamb. Has not been great, but if there is a guy that I feel like can turn it around, CeeDee Lamb is more than capable of it. But so far, I'm going to say I was wrong on him. Other wide receivers. Man, I'm trying to remember what other wide receivers I talked about that I maybe hit or missed on. Pickens was a breakout candidate for me. So Pickens has so far been a hit, I feel like. I did miss on Jerry Jeudy though. I have missed on Jerry Jeudy. Nico Collins, we called Nico Collins the guy. Jake and I were both heavy on him. Devontae Adams was a bust for me in the draft guide. Saquon Barkley was a bust for me in the draft guide. Saquon Barkley more due to injuries right now, so I'm not going to victory lap an injury. Devontae Adams is exactly what we thought he would be, though. I've been very right on Devontae Adams to kind of avoid him. DJ Moore definitely been up and down. DJ Moore definitely been up and down. I don't want to call that a miss yet, and I don't want to call it a hit because he's had a little bit of both. He's had a little bit of both. I'm trying to think of really, honestly, I feel like we killed preseason prediction so far. I feel like we've killed preseason prediction so far. Still a lot of season left, though. Devontae Smith was also a bust for me that I was avoiding. Justin Fields was placed on IR. That must have just happened. Please tell me that we're not just throwing stuff out there. I see nothing about Justin Fields being on IR. Justin Fields has not been placed on IR. Justin Fields is not on IR. Okay. I didn't see who said it, and I can't scroll back up. But that's one thing. Just remember, people, okay? We're not going to just throw stuff out there, okay? I mean, I'll take a miss on Puka Nacua because I didn't even really talk about him. I mean, if you want to say, Kyle, you missed on Puka Nacua, I'm willing. You know what? I probably should have seen it, especially with the Cooper Kupp injury. I should have looked into the wide receivers a little bit better, and I just didn't. So, I mean, I'll take that as a miss because I didn't even bring them up to you guys. I feel like in the past, we've been really, really good at pinpointing those guys early, though. Caesar, I know you were, but I'm still bringing it up anyway. So yeah, I definitely feel like, you know, hey, we probably should have done a little bit better in terms of looking at that situation there. But in the past, we've done really good at identifying those guys pretty early. Is Ramondre back? We just talked about Ramondre a little bit. I prefer Mason over CMC. We talked about that a little bit. Polo Dude, Nick Chubb and Aaron Jones, kind of the same thing. We were definitely high on Aaron Jones. I'm not willing to take a hit or a miss on Aaron Jones yet. Same thing. Injured, right? Same reason I'm not willing to take a victory lap on Saquon Barkley being a bust for me because he's been injured. So, one of those same things. I mean, as far as this week goes, I know we just kind of talked overall. You know one player that I would love to take a hit on and say I called it would be Kyren Williams. But I didn't talk about Kyren Williams enough this year. I talked about him last year. If you all remember, if you were here last year, Kyren Williams was like a guy that I was like, we got to have him. We got to keep him stashed. I don't trust Cam Akers. Kyren Williams dealt with some injuries. Wasn't really utilized a whole lot when he came back. Love some of the stuff that I saw from him. I don't know why, but he just escaped my mind. I forgot about him this offseason and I didn't talk about him again. Now, some people... I never said he was a bust, Pure Mustard. I said I wasn't calling him a bust. I'm not victory lapping an injury. I'm not doing that. I already said that. So I don't know what you heard, but I didn't say that. Oh, man. Popsicle drafted Kyren Williams in the first. I also drafted Kyren Williams. In 2 of my leagues, I drafted Kyren Williams late. And I took him in some best ball leagues as well. It just, oh, man. I really wish I would have come back to him this year. That's one of those ones where it was just like out of sight, out of mind. Oh, man. I told y'all to be careful about Imari DeMarcado this past week. Keontae Ingram was definitely better. DeMarcado ran a few more routes and only saw a few more snaps. Breece Hall was up to 75% of the RB snaps this week. What up, Ray? Let me just go back to some of my rankings from this past week real quick, and we'll talk about some hit and misses. I mean, Christian McCaffrey was number 1. Obviously, he ended up missing some time, but he scored a touchdown. Tony Pollard goes tonight. Kenneth Walker was my number 3 running back. Not a huge day, but he did score a touchdown. Did pretty well with what he was given. Bijan was at number 4. That didn't go over well. Raheem Mostert was at number 5. That went over well. Isaiah Pacheco was at number 6. That went over well. Kyron Williams was at number 7. That went over well. Travis Etienne was at number 8. That went over well. Austin Eckler plays tonight. DeAndre Swift scored a touchdown and had a pretty decent work in the passing game. So I had him at number 10. Josh Jacobs was at number 11. Alvin Kamara, James Cook, Saquon Barkley. Derrick Henry was at 16. I should have had him higher, obviously. Ramondre Stevenson was at 19. Brian Robinson was at 21. He scored a touchdown, but was a little rough around the edges at times. Rashad White was all the way down at number 24. Pierce, DeMarcado. Chuba Hubbard, I ended up moving into 29. I know in the live stream when I knew for sure that he was going to play, I believe I moved him all the way up to RB. It might have been like RB 17. If you were watching the live stream, you probably heard me say something about Chuba Hubbard like going all the way up to RB like 17 or something like that. I can't remember. I think I put him up above Joe Mixon at like RB 17. Was it RB 18 or something like that? So I feel like that was a pretty good call on Chuba Hubbard as well. Antonio Gibson I didn't have ranked this week. He ended up scoring a touchdown, but he had 1 catch for 1 yard and a touchdown. So overall, I think it was a pretty decent week at running back. Missed a couple. Had a few really good hits, I feel like, though. Tight end wise was really tough again. Had Kelsey at 1, Hawkinson at 2. Sam Laporta I had at number 3, but he dropped 3 passes. He ended up dropping 3 passes. He would have had a much bigger day if he didn't drop those. Mark Andrews had an okay day, a lot of it based on 1 catch. Evan Ingram had a whole okay day. Cole Kmet disappeared. Logan Thomas disappeared. George Kittle disappeared. I had them at 6, 7, and 9. Dallas Goedert at 8 had a decent day. I had Jonnu Smith at 11. Should have went higher with him. 12 was Hunter Henry. He's falling down rankings now for sure. Darren Waller was at 13, kind of in that area. Kyle Pitts scored a touchdown, so he was higher than 14. Dalton Schultz was at 16. He scored a touchdown. He was higher as well. Outside of that, I mean, I had the first guys that I had out of my rankings didn't really do anything either. So, I mean, it wasn't bad. In terms of hits and misses, it wasn't overall a bad week. I think it was a good week. I think so far this season, we kind of talked about it on last week's stream as well. I think so far this season, Jake and I have talked about it. I think this has so far been our most successful season in terms of calling hits and misses. I think we are doing very, very well right now. And like I said, hopefully it's showing in all of your lineups as well. Jake also sent me a few hits and misses that he had. Let me read those for you here real quick. Some hits, Jared Goff. Easy top 12 play weekly when all of his pass catching weapons are on the field. Trevor Lawrence was a hit. Only 2 games all year with multiple touchdowns, both against the Colts. Adam Thielen was a hit. He had him ranked higher than anyone in the industry this week. Jalen Waddle. People were hopping off the bandwagon, kept him high, finished wide receiver 11. Jacoby Myers was a hit. Continued to be the most steady option in the LV offense. People just seemed to forget about him. Misses, Justin Fields ended up dislocating his thumb early in the second half, but hadn't played great up till that point anyway. Kirk Cousins was a miss. He looked lost at time without Jefferson. Matthew Stafford was a miss. Chalk this one up to being a low-scoring week for quarterbacks. Finished QB 13, but only had 13 points. Amari Cooper was a miss. Didn't like it in the bad weather without Watson against San Francisco. Still had 4 for 108. A lot of that coming on one catch. DK Metcalf ended up with almost as many cheap shots on the Bengals as he had receptions. Continues to get open, and Geno can't find him. Calvin Ridley had more targets and receptions than Kirk. How I expected, but they didn't go anywhere. 7.5 yards per reception, and Kirk got the TD. So, overall, I feel like it was a pretty good week. And hopefully you all were successful with this week as well. We're about 47 minutes into the live stream. We've talked through a lot of players, talked through hits and misses, talked through some reactions on things that we saw and didn't see. Kyle, do you feel this has been one of the weirdest seasons to predict in recent years, especially with the amount of injuries? I think fantasy football is only going to get worse. I think it's only going to get more difficult. It's just the way that football is now. We don't live in a time where Jake P, I mentioned Logan Thomas is a bust already. You don't have to call it out. I already called it out. We are at a time right now where, like in football, it used to be where, we have studs. We're just relying on our studs over and over. No, football is way different. Way different now. So, it's just... It is. It's tougher to call. It's tougher to figure out. It's tougher to be accurate. It's tougher to have good fantasy teams. You might feel like you draft well and then things go awry. Inconsistency is worse than it's ever been before. So right now, fantasy football is all about just trying to find different things as different trends and different information that kind of leads us in the right direction. Then we just have to follow it. And then like Jake just said in the chat, everyone expects players to score 20-plus points a week, and that's just not the way it is anymore. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to call it for me, though. About 48 minutes in. I want to keep it under 50 so people will come back and watch it the rest of the day. Hopefully you all had a successful weekend. I know we did in terms of hits and misses, calls that we've made. Our pick'ems this week were super successful. Hopefully you all are as well. And then also we will, waiver wire video will be out later this afternoon. And then, the rest of the stuff starts coming out tomorrow. So, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you all. Stay safe, stay healthy the rest of the day. And I will catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners. Bye.
When the game on the line, you can't fold and you can't bend. Y'all be playing it safe and not